Hello and welcome to Woke Watch, an ongoing series of videos where I find woke content from around the world, and together we pick the ideology apart to expose the BS it truly is. Now, the origins of the word woke actually come from the African American community. To be woke meant to be awake, to be aware of racial injustice. But of course, language moves on and evolves. So now I use the term woke as an insult. If I say someone is woke, I'm implying they're a far left, overly emotional, mentally unstable half-wit who spends every waking moment finding something new to fucking cry about. I mention that because today I'll be discussing race, and I know as a middle-aged white man I have to be very, very careful lest I'm taken out of context. And of course, all forms of racism are abhorrent. To judge someone based solely on the colour of their skin is dehumanising and it's vile. And most woke people go along with that. Unless, of course, they're talking about someone the same colour as me. Then it's absolutely fine. Not necessarily to be racist, but to label all white people as racist, which in itself is a racist thing to do. Now, I don't consider myself to be a racist at all, because if I'm determined to hate someone, there are many things I can pick on before worrying about the colour of their skin. So, there's a current trend in some films and on many TV shows to race swap historical characters. To me, that is idiotic. If we change history, we cannot learn from it. And last year, Netflix released the docu-series Cleopatra, in which they suggested that the Egyptian queen was of African origin, that she was black. And of course, we know that she wasn't. Now, there's nothing at all wrong with being black, but we know that Cleopatra was of Greek Macedonian descent. She was known to be fair-skinned. There are statues, there are mosaics, we have evidence. And that series backfired so badly that Netflix are being sued by Egypt. How much of a fuck-up do you have to make for a country to sue you? In recent years, there have also been people suggesting that figures such as King Henry VIII, King James I, Joan of Arc, William Shakespeare and Sir Lancelot were also black. Now, some of those people, we can dig them up to prove that they weren't. The most bizarre one is Sir Lancelot. He didn't even exist. Yet, on the flip side, there are also people who think that Jesus Christ was a blue-eyed white European. So I guess it balances out. Recently, a very woke article was written about the TV series I'm currently watching. It's made by FX. In the UK, it's on Disney+. I believe in the New World, it's streaming on Hulu. Shogun, a historical drama set in Japan, based very, very loosely on the life of William Adams, an English sailor, the first Englishman to set foot in Japan, who went on to be a prominent samurai. But woke journalist William Spivey said that the drama is historically inaccurate because none of the characters are black. Our new friend doesn't know his fucking history. To this day, Japan remains a very isolated nation, albeit one that sells us really good stuff. But Shogun is set in the 1600s, and at the time, Japan would only interact with its direct Asian neighbours, as well as Spain and Portugal. Not the rest of Europe, not the Americas. Of course, back then, no one had even bothered to find Australia, and definitely not Africa, which at the time is where black people were. Yet Spivey claims that in Japan in the 1600s, there was a large black population and even black samurai. And the evidence he has to back this is slightly less than fuck all. In fact, what his argument seems to be based on is a French proverb which he hasn't quite understood. A French ship's doctor said, "For a samurai to be brave, he needs a bit of black blood." Now, in the UK, we call the aristocracy blue bloods. That doesn't mean I think if the king cuts himself, he bleeds the same colour as the sky. And black blood in French doesn't mean the blood of a black person. It means common, not being a noble. The proverb essentially means that someone who's had a life of privilege cannot achieve bravery. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with the casting of the TV show, unless we are to infer that facts are now racist. And if more proof were needed, well, we know the world is much more diverse than it was 100 years ago, let alone 400 years ago. But I got the most up-to-date set of data on the ethnic makeup of Japan. 98.1% of people living in Japan are of Japanese origin. To get it up to 99%, so another 0.9%, that's all the Chinese and Korean people, or ancestors of, living in Japan. The last 1% is everyone else, and it's mostly Asia and South America. There are so few black and white people in Japan, they don't register as a percentage of 1%. Yet, William Spivey would have us think that downtown Tokyo looks exactly the same as Nigeria. Anyway, I read a few of Spivey's articles, and it transpires the guy is a blatant race baiter. Of course, racism is vile, but this guy's job is to stir it up. It's how he makes a living. And that's a very woke thing to do. To play the victim whilst actually being the aggressor. And in this case, it's looking at a TV show, seeing there isn't a problem with it, then making one up and moaning about it. Because it strikes me, there wasn't the same outrage with the Netflix show Squid Game. Even though all other than one of the main cast were Korean, which made sense because it was set in fucking Korea. Why no outrage? Why no, where's the diversity? Where's the inclusion? And here's the important point. In Squid Game, other than one episode where they were all wearing masks, there were no white people. If there aren't white people, you can't scream racism. The overwhelming response to the article has been people doing online what I'm doing right now, ripping the piss out of the journalist who wrote it. Now, I actually feel sorry for the guy. I cannot imagine waking up every day needing to see hate. In particular, hate that isn't even there. And of course, if this was reversed, there would be outrage. If there was a TV series set in, say, Nairobi in the 12th century, and a white journalist complained there weren't any white characters, the woke would be out in force with their poor personal hygiene and blue hair. In the same way that if you were making a film about the life of Nelson Mandela, it would be inadvisable to cast Steve Martin in the lead role. So I've spoken about ancestry. My own family background, my ancestors were Scandinavian. From what I've been able to discover, they were very, very murdery. So if I was watching a series, say on Netflix, about the Vikings, a historical drama, and one of the characters, who was real from history, who we know was a white man, if that character was swapped to be a black woman, well, that actually happened. But I didn't feel outraged, I didn't write an article about it. What I did was think, this is fucking ridiculous, and turned it off. It must be fucking exhausting to be woke. To spend every waking moment looking at the world through these two lenses of transphobia and racism, always searching for it. To complain that a TV series set in Japan mostly has actors who are either Japanese or of Japanese origin. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, and as ever, thanks for watching. Talking about race, and as a middle... Don't know what they're doing. Oh, he's reversing now. White guy. I have to be fucking, oh dear, fucking careful on TV and on a fucking wanky bollocky fuck. Television and movies to race swap historical figures. Now, to me, this is that King Henry VIII was black. He was fucking ginger. Jesus Christ, was as well right at the fucking end. Famously isolational, fuck it. Isolational, oh fuck this. Response to this up. Birds are joining in. Yep, piss off. To this article has been people taking the piss. I've had a few people ask me in the comments where it is I record, and it looks very nice. It is very nice. It's a nature reserve, and it's a big place, but I record just on this one lane here, because it's fairly out of the wind and reasonably deserted. So if you're planning to kill me, this is where to do it, which is actually Scandinavian.